With the benefit of hindsight, my journey to an art school was about finding my community. Well, hopefully an open and welcoming LGBT plus community, because when I was in high school, well, it's a conservative, dare I say, right-wing neighborhood. And that's drove me to the want that I had back in the day. I think this is when our returning guest, Christina, resonated with me. She is an American expat, now based in Australia, and started Chandler Educational Consulting to help students and their families make decisions to come to Australia for the uni years and raise awareness of Australia as a desirable option. And I think young LGBT plus people can really take in how working with an ally like Christina is important. Welcome to part 2 of my interview with Christina. Can you give me a typical day of how you operate and work with, like, do you work with the counselor only, or do you work with the family, or do you work with the students? And yeah,
I wish there were a typical day. So what I'm doing, and the business is still relatively new, still growing, but what I'm doing typically is providing a lot of information for those high school counselors. Many of those high school counselors see their students looking at the US, Canada, UK, and some European countries for university. Australia and New Zealand are not as well known, and the application process is not as well known. So I'm trying to provide a lot more information about Australia and all the universities we have here in this country. We've got 42 full universities here in Australia. That includes public and private. And I think a lot of counselors know the Group of 8. They know a couple of our big cities here, but they don't know the wealth of university options that students have. And so I'm trying to provide a lot more of that information. And if there's some fabulous student and they want the top ranked university, that's going to be relatively easy to find. But for your average students, those B students or C students, or if there's a student that wants something really specific, they need to do a bit more looking around. So I'm trying to push out a lot more information about Australia, about the university opportunities here, and about the reasons for coming here to study.
Okay, I want to ask you a strange question.
Okay.
Now, if you need to describe to someone Australia as a country, what would you say to them?
Oh, gosh. Well,
I put her on the spot.
As you know, I'm American. So from an American background, I would say Australia is safe.
Yep.
Because it's a comparison to the US.
We record this in 2025. Go figure. Sorry.
Safe. It's very welcoming. It's a more relaxed style of life. And it's a very interesting country. I mean, it's obviously Australia is an island. There are things here that you don't find anywhere else. Obviously, kangaroos, koalas, you know, just a lot of the cool flora and fauna that you've got here. But I would say for the most part, it's a very welcoming country, and it's just a really comfortable style of living here.
Well, like background information about me, I was born in Asia and then came here with my parents when I was young and spent my younger years in Sydney. What I really love is that Australia has such a nice variety of stories that you can do. You can carve your own path. You can have your own, like, kind of like a choose your adventure game in a way, because there's so many different cities that you can enjoy, and or even outside of city a little bit, or spend a trip between semesters, or doing your experience in a different location. Just expose yourself to new opportunities, because like should you stay in Australia or should you go back to the US, for example, that you're bringing a very different experience compared to what typically people, for example, everyone knows that like what it's like to study in the UK or Europe or such as.
And I'm glad that you mentioned the cities here. A lot of people know Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane.
Oh, I hope so.
I hope so. I hope a lot of people know those cities. But beyond Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane, there are, as you said, regional areas, but there's also Perth out on the West Coast, which is a beautiful city. There's Adelaide down in South Australia, which is also a nice, smaller city. You've got Canberra, as you mentioned. Canberra's the capital. Nobody goes to Canberra, but Canberra has 2 good universities, and it has lots of outdoor activities as well. And then you've got Tasmania. I mean, Hobart's a beautiful city right on the water. So there are a lot of different options here. And I've spent some time traveling around to these different cities, traveling to the university campuses to really get a sense for all the different options that we have. And it's a huge country, and there's a lot of variety here. And like you said, choose your own adventure. You can go to so many different places.
Well, we're going to take a little break, and after that, we're going to go deeper, a little bit further. How does that sound?
Yep, sounds good.
All right, and cut. Welcome back. Hey, Christina, how are you doing?
Good, good.
Well, I think it's time for us to share with our audience a little bit about how it works. How it works. Like, for example, let's say a student in the US might be interested in looking into studying in Australia. What's the process like?
Good question. Good question. So for a lot of students, they're between 16 and 18 years old when they start looking at university. So they may not have a great idea about what they want to study, where they want to go. They may not know what the options are. So one of the first steps that I do with my students is I give them a questionnaire and ask, what are you interested in? What are you good at in school? What do you think you'd like to study or to learn about? But also, you're going to be spending a few years of your student experience in one place. Where do you think you might like to go? Do you prefer the beach, the mountains, cooler weather, warmer weather? And so it's very important to think about where you're going to spend those few years that you're studying at university, and the types of activities you might like to do, the type of environment, things that are really important to you as a person. So we start out with a little questionnaire. We walk through the steps of what you might like to study, some of the different options, where you might like to be living, activities that you'd like to do as a student, and the job opportunities nearby as well, because students in Australia will get a little bit of work experience while they're here. So we start off by kind of figuring out what the student wants. And I always try to make sure that I'm speaking directly to the student at that point, because it's not mom and dad's decision entirely. They might be paying the bill, but it is really up to the student to be happy and successful and really engage in what they're doing. The student needs to have a big role in that decision. So once we've figured out a little bit of what they're looking for, then we start looking around at all of the university options. So we look at which universities offer the field of study that the student's interested in, the location that they're interested in, the different elements that student really wants in their university experience. And we try to narrow down that list to under 10 options, preferably. Price plays a factor, scholarships, campus life, accommodation plays a factor. And so we start looking around. Once we've identified a handful of universities for the student to apply to, then we can start on the application process. Now, there's a big difference between applications to Australian universities and applications to US universities. Australia follows what appears to be a much simpler system. In order to apply to an Australian university, you're going to fill out an application form with your school transcripts or your exam scores and your passport. And you might need an English language test or proof of proficiency. And then that's it. There are no required letters of recommendation, essays, extracurricular activities. You don't need a lot of those extra elements that are required for US university applications.
Oh, what does that mean? That if an Australian student interested to study in the US, they might need, for example, an essay, an extracurriculum. Oh, geez.
Yeah. Wow. So applications to US universities are much more complex. They require a lot more documentation. Students are expected to have a lot of other activities and recommendation letters and writing samples, whereas Australian applications really rely on your scores.
Well, actually, speaking of scores, I think one of the things the only thing that I remember back in my senior years in high school is that I was already stressed out enough for the final exam and all of those things, or like actually in Australia we call it HSC.
Mhm.
Like, what do they call it in? Do they have something like a big exam in America?
There's an SAT, which
Okay.
is sort of a college entrance exam for the
Oh, okay.
US.
Yeah.
But typically, any international student coming to Australia will use their international credentials to apply. So they won't have an ATAR score for
Mm.
Australia. They won't necessarily have HSC. They're not going to have the Australian credentials that a high school student here will, but they might have their high school diploma, their AP exams or IB exams, whatever scores they've got will be translated into the Australian equivalent when they apply.
Wow. Wow. Well, and imagine all those different hurdles and all of those things. Just imagine that if you are a high school senior trying to figure that out, or you're a parent of like the parents that probably will be like they probably have full-time job while they're working and all of those
Yeah.
things. And imagine doing all of that. That's a shit on shit show.
It is. It's a lot of work, and it's a
Yes.
lot for the student and the parents to think about. You're right.
I have a little question because one of the big question for many people in preparation of university is one of them is what if I didn't get the score
Mhm.
that I need to get in?
Yep.
Um, what would be the process like? Because
Sure.
sometimes despite the best effort.
Exactly. We're not all straight A students. Students have a lot of options here. So just as with any country, you've got your top ranked universities, your most selective universities, and then you have all the rest of the universities who are maybe not as selective or don't require those top scores. So first, you have other universities that you can apply to. In Australia, the group of 8 are going to be your most selective. The group of 8 here are kind of like the Ivy League for the US. They're the top ranked universities and they usually require the highest scores. There are many other universities in Australia that you can consider applying to. The other option that we have here, and this may apply to students coming from an IB school if they did not get the full IB diploma, but they took IB coursework. They can come to Australia and do a diploma course here. And the universities provide this as a pathway for entry to the university. Many universities have a partnership with a college here, which is a pathway provider to the universities. And students can do a diploma course in that pathway college and then gain entry into the university directly afterwards. They might do a 1-year or 2-year diploma and then enter into the second year of the bachelor's degree.
Oh gosh. Okay, so it's not like it's not all doom and gloom. Just in case if you don't quite get the score that you wish for.
Yep.
Well, how about the other way around? So if an Australian student who didn't quite get there, but close, like
Yep.
have a good-ish ATAR, what are there any pathways like that in the US when they study? And I believe that they call it college.
Yes, exactly. So in the US, first, the vocabulary is quite different between Australia and the US. And so in the US, college and university is basically the same thing. Colleges might be liberal arts colleges, private colleges, but they're all initially a 4-year institution. So the US bachelor's degree is typically 4 years. If a student coming out of Australia or any other country wants to apply to the US for higher education, they can do the same type of research ahead of time and find colleges or universities that have a less selective entry rate. So if you don't have those top scores, you'll still have opportunities to find a college or university where you can gain entry and you meet the requirements. The other option in the US is a community college that has high selectivity. So if you haven't got excellent scores, you can start in a community college, which is similar to the diploma coursework here in Australia.
I see, yeah.
And it's a little bit of a better opportunity for students who need some a little bit of academic support. You need to kind of get ready for that higher level university study. Community colleges are an excellent opportunity for students to do their first 2 years of study in the US and complete their third and fourth years at a university.
Oh.
Yeah. So
And
community college is actually the first 2 years of
wow.
university.
Wow. For me, I went to university. I went to University in New South Wales. Not a bad place, but of course that I think coming out of it, one of the best thing was that experience was about learning how to make things happen when you have limited resources. You learn about how to think critically when you think about doing something independently or in a group. So that's kind of like those are the skills that I found that is very useful even these days. Now, doesn't mean that I love working with people, not really, but but I mean, it's help. It's not only the subject that you learn, but also the value that added to your life in general. That studying in university or studying abroad or overseas that can give you. Christina?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for sharing all these very interesting facts and information about people who want to have international experience when they are in the uni age. Now, but right now, I have an important list of random questions to hit you with.
Okay, bring it on.
Are you ready?
I think so.
Okay. What is the one item that you couldn't live without?
I know I definitely couldn't live without, well, maybe I couldn't live without technology, but I think what's more important, the ability to be outdoors in nature.
Amazing.
It's not really an item, is it?
Well, I'll accept it as a spiritual item.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. What are you like outside of work?
Well, I think the last question kind of feeds that. I am very outdoorsy. I love to go out for hikes, bike rides, walk my dog most days. I've just bought a little sailboat, so I like to go out sailing. I like to be out in nature, on the water or on the beach or in the mountains, wherever I can.
Well, what is your favorite theme park?
Oh gosh, I haven't been to a theme park in years and years and years. I'm going to skip that question because I don't think I have a
Most people skip that. I think I need to start removing it. Which talent or skill that would you like to wake up with tomorrow?
I would like to have can this be an unreal one? Is that okay?
Up to you.
I'd like to be able to fly, like flap my own wings and fly, so that I could just relocate as needed. Okay. So I didn't have to go through the whole flight process and the airports and
But don't you need a passport?
No.
Okay. Well, but do you fly like wings or like Wonder Woman in an invisible plane?
Yeah, either one would be fine for me.
Which one would be more exhausting?
The wings, for sure.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, if you're Wonder Woman and if you're flying the invisible plane, if you give Superman a lift and he take a power shit in the bathroom, who's gonna clean it?
Not me. That's up to him.
You know what? Wings are good.
Yeah.
How did we get here?
I don't know.
Name a job that you do in the multiverse. So there's a different version of you.
Yeah.
Somewhere something changed in your past.
Oh gosh, what would I do? I hadn't even thought about that until just now. I think, I have no idea.
We'll talk about it over drinks after this. Like, we'll talk about it off pod. What inspires you on a Tuesday?
On a Tuesday? Tuesday is usually a busy day for me with meetings and emails. Because of the time zones, Monday is relatively quiet if I'm waiting for the Americas or Europe to wake up. So Tuesdays are usually really busy because it catches up everybody's Monday.
Oh gosh. Yes, it's true.
Yeah,
You're doing remote, but you will work with their time zones to find a
exactly.
good suitable
Exactly.
time.
So
Good for
I'm
you.
usually up early on a Tuesday, and I know that there's going to be quite a bit of email to respond to or
Hmm.
things to get done. And that's also when I hold a lot of my meetings, is
Wow.
Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
Well, that's big.
Yep.
Uh, what is the biggest business lesson you've learned from your career so far?
Oh gosh, it's not easy. It's something that I really thought, you know what? Let me jump in both feet, just do it, just get started. But it takes a lot of work, and it doesn't happen quickly.
Mm.
It's going to take time. It's going to take effort. There are a lot of moving parts. You've got to do the marketing and promotion. You've got to do all the communication and outreach. And oh, in the background, there's all this admin work to be done.
Yep, yep, it really is.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
And now, what is one piece of advice that you received that you would like to pass on to the others in the community?
Hmm. I think the one piece relating a bit to the last question is just do it. Just
Mm.
don't wait until all the pieces are in place. If you're thinking of starting a business, or if you're trying to get something up and running, just just jump right in.
Mm.
Both feet, get in there and get started, because otherwise it's gonna drag on forever.
Yeah.
So I think just getting it started, and does it, as long as you're in a place where you can start, you're comfortable, you're safe financially, you're not going to be relying on tomorrow's paycheck, just jump in with both feet and get started.
And I think another thing that I want to share is that sometimes, well, actually, most of the time, what considered perfect at one point would be different a little bit further down the track. So
Yeah.
if you work towards that perfect, initial perfect, by the time that you get there, the standard had probably already changed.
Yes.
And then just imagine that when you keep chasing that perfection before you jump into that space, then unfortunately you get to a point that you keep asking yourself, what if?
Yeah.
But and the thing is, like in the last series that I talked to this agile expert, that it's about putting projects or ideas into action,
Mm-hmm.
getting feedbacks, getting result or no result, and
Yep.
respond to it.
Yes.
And that's an important part, and that's exactly what you're doing, and
Yep.
that's good for you. All right, next
Thanks.
question. Oh gosh. If you have unlimited resources to do a streaming special series or a movie, what would you like to do?
You mean not just this podcast?
Well, thank you. I've been waiting 2 series for someone to say that. No, I mean, but like seriously, if you can, any type of stories.
I think I would do travel stories. I think I would do global travel stories.
Ooh, would that be like you traveling, or would it?
Well, of course. I'm not going to let somebody else do it.
But would it be a little bit like what type of traveling? Like
it would be off the beaten path. So not your typical tourist travels, but taking a 2-week driving tour all around France, for example, and just seeing some cool things that are a bit off track, off the beaten path. Some highlights that people would not really know about, and you wouldn't get them on a standard high fee paying tour.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Don't steal my idea.
Okay. No. If you were a superhero, what would your superpower be? You can't use mine.
Okay. My superpower would be to make people just stop talking. That's not personal, I swear.
Well, look, I mean, you signed it up to do a podcast called Get Chatty. What do you expect?
What was I thinking?
What do you expect for? Anyway. Okay. What's your favorite way to relax and unwind after a Wednesday?
A dog walk.
Okay.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Sounds a little cheesy, but I like to just go out for a walk. It helps clear my head, get out in nature a little bit, and talk to the dog and nobody else. She doesn't talk back, don't worry.
Okay.
but it's just a relaxing way to go out for a walk with a purpose. So we've got our particular route we have to follow, and just go out, and it helps me to relax, being around the dog and taking her out for a bit of a play, running around on a field. But getting out in nature and having a walk really is a good way to relax.
Well, and you're not far from the beach.
Exactly.
It's like you can get tree time, you can get beach time or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's an amazing thing, especially with the Tuesdays that you got with a long day on Tuesday.
Exactly.
That's a nice way. That's a nice way to celebrate hump day.
Sure is.
And last but not least, how do you keep the momentum going?
Oh, with business, just knowing that at some point it's going to rev up and be really busy, and it's going to be what I really want to do. The whole reason I got into this was because this is the type of work that I want to do. And I keep the momentum going because I know that at some point it's going to be busy and active and successful, and that's going to make me happy.
Well, congratulations of forging your own path again. And it's not a quick shortcut, but I think what you're providing is something very interesting and customized to particular needs, especially when we are living in the day and age that some of our students who identify as LGBT plus in whichever part in the world that they might want to explore a new life in the different countries for a few years by attending university and the thing is, if they want to choose the adventures, they will go to your website, which is
ChandlerEducationalConsulting.com.
And you're also on?
I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram.
Lovely. And I'll make sure that all the information are on the show notes underneath. And thank you so much, Christina. Good luck with all of this. And well, if you find this interesting or someone that might find this useful, pass Christina's contact to them. And let's keep getting chatty about your local businesses.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me on the podcast.
I want to start my top 3 learnings with this episode by complimenting how Christina's work supports students in carving out affirming, inclusive, and adventurous journeys. If you're a smaller operation, there's truly a business case and a moral case to be affirming and inclusive with your clients. Especially we are in a space that referrals and recommendation can play a huge part in our own marketing. We can also learn to be client-centric. So for example, Christina centered her work on student-led decision-making. It is helpful because it pushes small business owners to consider more out of the cookie-cutter options or stick with just one set of options. For example, Christina helps students who might have faces challenges or disruption academically to investigate different options and find environments that align with their individual identities. I'm gonna quote her about jump in with both feet and Cullen from the last episode about build your wings as you fly. Now, building a business, well, also in Christina's case, a life aboard, doesn't require perfection. If you want to wait until the stars align or when the path is fully clear, you might need to wait for a very long time. Now, let me be perfectly clear. It's not about jumping in something blind, but making informed decisions, making connections, and building based on feedbacks. It may be a good comment or bad one, but I always look at who vote by wallets, as in, well, a paying customer. Come on, I mean, that's a perfect way to get feedback that something is working, someone's willing to pay. Thank you. And cut. Woo! Oh, that works very well.
Yay!
Save. Would it be very funny if I forgot to save? Get Chatty podcast is produced by me, Arthur, the Chatty Curator. Thanks for your company. I hope you enjoy this podcast, learn something new, or pick up something helpful to realize your aspirations. The podcast guests are appearing in kind. so please consider supporting the podcast by supporting them. Small moments like liking or sharing on social media, or even tagging a friend about a post can really help. You can find the detail on the show notes or send the episode's dedicated page on chattykurator.com. Until the next episode, thanks for listening and have a great day.